sometimes I like to just wing it here a little bit. Welcome back to Junk Vlogs, where I answer your questions. And I took a little bit of a hiatus, and I've got some questions kind of been stockpiled, and people wondered when I'm going to make another one of these. And I try to keep them on a reasonable schedule, but this is just a hobby, so life gets in the way. So let's get down to it. I got a couple here. Got one from Anthony Floyd. It says, "Hi, Junkman. Like your videos, very informative and great. My question is, how do I clean a master clutch cylinder hose that is seriously clogged? I have a 1984 Honda Shadow VT700. Hope to see another cool video this time on unclogging the clutch line." Clutch master cylinders use essentially brake fluid, or most of them do, or they use something similar to it. And if it's been sitting for a long time, brake fluid can gel, gum up, and kind of crystallize. I've cleaned many out. Now, 84, I mean, that's old, but not super old, but old enough if it's been sitting and nobody's changed the fluid or it hasn't been used a lot over the years. So I'm guessing it's pretty well packed in there. Well, what you're going to need to do is use some type of a solvent. I'd first start with just a can of brake cleaner, and you're going to want to remove the hose completely, obviously, to do this, and do this on a bench or something, and somewhere where it's well ventilated, because brake cleaner can be pretty stinky, and you want to be well ventilated and have some eye protection so it doesn't splash up into your eyes. I've had that happen, so take it from me. And I know it's going to be hard because they got little banjo fittings on there, but try to stick the little red straw in there and spray in there. Now, it's going to spray back at you, but hopefully that could start softening it. Now, if that might do it in itself, and you'll see it kind of come out the other end. But if that's not really doing it after trying with that, you might want to use some compressed air too along with that. Compressed air like from an air compressor, if you have one. If not, a inexpensive air compressor, even a cheap, $100 one, with a small little tank, is going to be better than not having anything at all, just for little things like this. But if you don't get anywhere with that, the next thing to try is get yourself a tub and fill it up with some kind of solvent. You can try acetone or parts cleaning solvent. I wouldn't recommend like carb dip because that could degrade the rubber parts. And set that in there, let it soak, dip it out, take it out after a couple hours, try to blow through it, And if that doesn't work, your only other option is replacement. That means it's just packed up too much in the line, and besides, it's probably eroded the inside of the line, and you're going to have a leak or a very spongy feeling lever anyways, even after you clean it out. So there's some things to do. Try to clean it out first, but ultimately, none of those techniques work. You're just going to have to replace it. And I would rebuild the master cylinder and clutch slave cylinder as well, if you can, just because if that crud was in the line, it's also in the master cylinder too. Next one up is, from one of my very engaged users, Permagen Vanalanas. How do you deal with dust flakes every time I paint something? I used a fender for practice. I got them in the paint, and I don't know what to do. He's commenting actually on my how to paint your motorcycle video, where I show an example using a steel motorcycle tank on one of my vintage restorations. Actually, it's this bike right behind me that I was doing it on. Anyway, and I was just showing a way to get professional-like results at home. However, he's talking about dust. And, of course, short of having a paint booth with a ventilation system and filters and everything, there's no way to guarantee that you won't get a little bit of dust in the paint, but there's some precautions you can take. Obviously, you can, like what I do in my garage here, it's a pretty dust-free environment. It's pretty well sealed. and then I will open a door and have some ventilation and kind of make a curtain, or I will hang plastic from the ceiling and kind of make a paint booth with a fan and a filter, a makeshift one. Or if I'm doing small parts, if you watch my modeling series where I built build plastic models and such, you'll see I built myself a small, about yay by yay, paint booth with positive draft in it, and you could do that for small parts. Build yourself something like that. That's a way to mitigate it. Otherwise, just getting into an area that you want to be well ventilated, obviously, and then clean the floor, sweep, wipe everything down, work on a nice clean table, and that's do the best you can. Like I said, that video is intended for professional-like results, not professional results, because obviously you need some expensive equipment to actually get like auto body shop quality out of your paint job. But for most people, they just want to spiff up their bike. They don't need to necessarily have all this equipment if you're just spraying a small area. Now, if you're painting a whole dang car, you take it to a pro, or you build yourself a proper paint booth and such. There's ways around that. So I don't know if that answers your question sufficiently, but you kind of need to have an area where you can make it really clean and set up ventilation and keep it out of the wind. So, don't do it just outside, obviously. You need to be in kind of a sheltered area. Just use your imagination. There's, there's tons of online resources for people to deal with this problem, and that's what I suggest. Next one we got is from Gabriel Cooper. It says, "Hi, I have a 4-stroke 125cc pit bike which is smoking a little, and I was wondering if it was either an oil leak into the cylinder or an engine that is running rich on fuel. Thanks." Well, it's hard to tell without either a video or actually being there. But a major thing is if an engine's running rich or excessively rich, the smoke, when you rev the throttle, you'll usually, if you watch closely, you can see puffs of black sooty smoke, or puffs of black soot coming out of the exhaust. That indicates definitely a rich or an overly rich mixture. Generally, their outside ring of the tailpipe will be excessively black. Little bit of blackness or brown blackness on the tailpipe is going to be typically normal, just because, you're burning hydrocarbons and things. But excessively black. Sometimes you can take a paper towel. This doesn't always work, but you can take a paper towel and kind of put it over the muffler while it's running and rev it up. And then see if it's spitting big chunks of black soot, and that can kind of tell you. But oil will almost always burn with a bluish hue to it. Maybe on the white side, but whitish blue, bluish smoke. If there's bluish smoke coming out, that is definitely some kind of oil burning issue. Could be just a little bit leaking past the rings, could be valve seals, could be a head gasket. On those bikes, it's typically either rings or valve seals or valve guides are excessively worn, so a little bit of oil is seeping into the intake tract, and then, like I said, giving you the puff of blue smoke and such. And if the blue smoke's only upon startup and then it goes away, or you don't notice it while it's running when the engine's completely warm, that's almost definitely valve seals or valve guides of some sort, because as the engine's sitting and the oil is wanting to drain back into the crankcase, it can drip down the stem of the valve, and then it's, depending on if the valve is open or closed, it doesn't matter, it pools in there or it gets into the cylinder, and then immediately when you fire it up, it wants to shoot that out the exhaust, and it kind of burns it and sends it out the exhaust. Also, with this particular bike, and if you look at my other pit bike videos that are on my channel, these also have a little O-ring on the head for the drain back for the oil, and it's rare, but if that O-ring fails, that's another way sometimes it can get into the cylinder to be burnt. But usually when that O-ring fails, you have a leak externally outside the head. So that's pretty rare, but that should probably at least get you on your way to diagnosing what you have and where you go from there. Like I said, if it's a rich carburetor, go check out my jetting page on my website. Got a lot of information there. Carburetor diagnosis video shows you how to take apart the carburetor and shows and explains some of the functions of it. And it'll teach you how to jet on that, changing main jets and carburetor slides and things like that. But like I said, you first got to identify exactly what kind of problem you have. And blue smoke, oil, black smoke, excessive fuel. So that kind of wraps it up for this episode. Like this video, share it, tell your friends. If you got questions, you can leave them in the comments here. You can also leave them on my website in the comment section. Every single page on my website has an area where you can leave comments anonymously. You don't have to register or anything. And I'll see them there, and I'll take questions from there as well. And I have tons of pages on my website that have my YouTube videos embedded, but then underneath I have pictures and information and sometimes specifications and procedures. So don't hesitate to hunt around on my website, search around for some of the answers. I might have already kind of covered it in a later one of these videos, but feel free to leave any questions in the comment of this video or really anywhere on my website, and I'll see them and maybe get to them in the next video. So until next time, like this video, like my Facebook page if you'd like, check out the website, and thanks for watching.